Hey there guys, welcome to the next video here on the channel. A lot of people have gotten back to me, kind of probably because I made a video a little while back kind of discussing all of the discontinued duct tapes and kind of discussing with me the difference between the kind of the old rock tape versus the new rock tape. And if you guys read the title of the video and thought, oh my gosh, they're coming out with new rock tape, let me tell you, no, as far as I know, there's no plans to come out with rock tape. But once again, what I'm talking about is the difference between the original rock tape that was released when the print first came out, and then at some point there was kind of a switch in the way that the tape was printed and the design on it, and sometime in between when it was still being made and released, and then the new rock tape was what was available until it was discontinued a few years ago. So that's the difference between old rock and new rock tape. Now I want to kind of show you guys exactly what the difference is and how they look different, because they don't exactly look very different, do they? But they actually are. So I want to go over those differences in this video. Alright, so telling the difference between the old and the new kinds of rock tape kind of takes a lot of practice, because especially if you've seen both of them, it's kind of easy to tell the difference, but if you haven't seen both of them, kind of difficult. So if you are trying to get rock tape, or you've gotten a roll, or you see a roll for sale somewhere, you'll be able to tell if it's kind of like the really original kind, or if it's the newer kind that was released towards the end of it being discontinued. So this is the original, this is the old rock tape here. I'll show you what the difference is. I'm going to take a bit of it off the roll here and stick it down on my mat here. So take a really good look at that. It's very busy. It doesn't have a lot of black space in between, the different fonts of rock. There's actually a blue piece here. It says ROCK, but you can't really see it because it's kind of blue. But it's definitely there. That's definitely not, like an open spot. Now let's take a look at what the new rock tape is. And if you can tell, you look at the roll, there's a whole bunch of spaces, that just wide open spaces where there's a whole bunch of black space in between. If you look here, it's on either side of this right here. There's some right there, here. If you look at this roll, there's hardly any. It's just totally packed with kind of every single different kinds of rock font that you could possibly imagine. That's one of the easiest ways to tell the difference. If you actually look at this roll, you look at for that rock and kind of the up and down vertical motion. If you look at that, you can't see that at all on this roll at all, this piece, because it simply isn't there. I mean, if you take a look at this part too, it just isn't there. So that kind of confirms without a doubt that there's definitely two different kinds of rock tape out there. This one being the old one and this one being the new one. So just a little bit of history about rock tape, if you guys aren't familiar with it. It was a limited edition print to Walmart way back in the day, probably I guess about 3 years ago. I'm actually kind of losing track because it was so long ago, and there have been literally like 40 different rolls since then. But it was released a few years ago. Its partner tape was the piece tape, the original piece tape, which had this cool blue background. And they were both at Walmart, and believe it or not, to this day there are still some rolls of rock tape floating around certain Walmarts. I've heard people just see a random roll on the shelf, and of course they grab it because it's like impossible to get. There's also some rumors of the piece tape here going around. This one was also limited edition. It doesn't say it on this one, but I believe I have another roll where it actually says that. And this one was discontinued a little while back in favor for the new kind of tie-dyed, rainbow style piece tape, which has the rainbow flame background with a whole bunch of white peace signs on it. And believe it or not, the piece tape is actually available to some Walmarts as well. There's really just kind of luck of the draw. You might see it at a local Walmart, you may not. It's really just still there on the shelf because nobody's bought it, and it's taken a long time for it to crawl off the shelves. But that's kind of just the difference, a little bit of a history of duct tape and the piece tape, which was its companion tape back in the day. So hopefully you guys liked the video, just kind of a short history of rock tape and the difference between old rock and new rock. I actually have an unopened roll of the old rock as well, so you can kind of tell the difference. And you look at the front here, there's definitely no difference in the printing or the sticker or anything like that. So it's kind of hard to tell, like I said before. If you've ever if you're ever buying a roll of rock tape online, or you're trading for it, hopefully you'll be able to tell the difference between old rock and new rock just by looking at it. So you'll be able to tell kind of which version you have. They are very similar. They do use a few of the same exact fonts. Generally in the old rock has a lot more of the fonts and a lot more of the text on it, and the font size are also a lot bigger. The new rock kind of uses a bunch of them that are kind of smaller and kind of fitting them into different parts of the roll. So that's kind of just the general way of being able to tell the difference. So hope you guys liked the video on this, all this kind of history of rock tape and telling the difference. I'll catch you guys next time on the channel.